I think the Trump administration has to focus on economic issues. They did the right thing on Sunday when Secretary Mattis came out and threatened massive retaliation if North Korea actually attacked South Korea, Japan, Guam, or the United States forces in East Asia. You've got to practice that deterrence and relearn the lessons of the Cold War. I thought it was a smart thing to do. But right now, there are no good military options beyond defense. And so you see the Trump administration talking about a variety of economic options, from cutting off all trade with any country trading with North Korea, which does not seem to be something that they can seriously consider. I think where they need to go is secondary sanctions, to look at companies, Chinese companies, for instance, that are cheating on the current international sanctions and make examples of them. That's probably going to be a more fruitful way to go forward.
And then to connect the dots, what would that do? How would that would eventually lead to the leadership in China, get back to them, and then they can actually, it sounds like you're still thinking that China could do more than the leadership.
Well, China can certainly do a lot more than they've done to date. You know, Chinese trade with North Korea has actually expanded quite significantly over the past 7 months. And so China has a lot of responsibility here. Ultimately, the Chinese have leverage, and they're the only country that could actually probably move the North Koreans towards a freeze of their nuclear weapons program, which is the short-term objective here. And so that connection between Beijing and Washington is critical. Henry Kissinger wrote a couple of weeks ago in the Wall Street Journal, he thought ultimately that there had to be, in essence, a joint venture, my words, not his, between China and the United States to coerce the North Koreans to a safer place and a more restrained place along this continuum.
Are we convinced that China is as, I mean, do they have an interest in North Korea not becoming a nuclear power to the same extent that we do? Do they care?
I think they do. They're frustrated by Kim Jong-un. They've never invited him to Beijing. They clearly do not want to see a war on the Korean Peninsula. China trades with South Korea and Japan, and it prizes that. But the Chinese fear something more. They prefer the status quo to a situation where the North Korean regime could be so weakened that it could possibly collapse. That's why this idea of an oil embargo that is being floated this morning, I think the Chinese will reject that out of hand because they could see that as fundamentally weakening North Korea. And what do the Chinese fear? They fear refugees from North Korea into China. They also fear the creation of a united Korean peninsula aligned with the United States. And that is a greater threat to China than the current nuclear program of Kim Jong-un.
You point out that any sanctions that are levied against North Korea, it's totally different than Iran or something like that, because they're not a participant in the global economy. It's a hermit nation. And my kids actually asked me, and I said he doesn't care about his people. If he's never going to be hungry or lacking anything in life. So do economic sanctions hurt anyone but his people?
They certainly hurt his people. I think what he's about, what his father and grandfather are about, is survival of this mafia family that runs North Korea. That's the ultimate goal here. He obviously looks at Iran, he looks at Saddam Hussein, he looks at Muammar Gaddafi, and he judges that having nuclear weapons is a better way to maintain his family's control of North Korea. So that's the highest value for him. That's why he's putting the great majority of his country's economic resources into the development of nuclear weapons.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.